considering buying a base model MacBook? Well, don't. With the recent news of the M3 MacBook Air being released, you may be tempted to upgrade, and once you click into Apple's website and start to see the prices, you might be tempted to think, sure, I'll go for a base model, they're all the same, right? They're not. In this video, I'm going to take you through all of the reasons why you should avoid buying a base model MacBook, how I made this mistake firsthand myself, and then I'll take you through my recommendations on what MacBook you should buy depending on your situation. Back in 2017, 2018, I was starting out the long 4-year journey of my computing degree. I was only a few months in and I realized if I was going to be anyway successful, I'd need my own laptop. Otherwise, I'd be stuck using those dreaded lab computers that struggle to run Chrome, never mind develop an entire application. I had some money saved at this point and I always wanted to own a MacBook. They always looked so cool, and with Apple's marketing always being extremely good, I can safely say it worked on me. So I decided to have a look around at laptops that were in my price range, and I settled on a brand new, late 2017, early 2018 MacBook Pro. And by the time I bought the laptop, the case, a hard drive, and the warranty, I had no money left, and here I was with an 8GB of RAM, 256GB storage, with an Intel i5 drive in the laptop. At this point, I didn't know what my workload would be like. I knew I would be developing things, not sure what languages I'd be learning. Point is, I knew that the PC would have to handle at least a most basic dev environment at the start. The first 2 years were great. I never really had an issue with the laptop, apart from the fact that everyone else was using Windows in the course, and I had to find out other ways to set up MAMP on my IDE that everyone else had no issue with at all. That aside, in my 3rd year, I really started noticing a big dip in usability when we started to do the more real dev kind of things, building entire applications end to end, running virtual machines and all that good stuff. The MacBook struggled and oftentimes would have to spin up its fans to accommodate the intense workload I was throwing at it, and it got to the point that I had to offload half of my projects and files to even download the latest OS update, which is completely insane. I realized at this point that the mistake I made was I went with the base model MacBook. I know it was a MacBook Pro, but it was still a base model in that it had the minimum RAM and the minimum storage that you could possibly get at the time. Trust me, the last thing you want is for this to happen yourself. You want a machine that can handle the work you're going to throw at it, and when you're spending thousands on a new laptop, I'd expect nothing less. So you may already have a sense as to why you should avoid buying a MacBook base model. However, let's make it clear. I know I'm talking about a very specific use case here, and 99% of people aren't looking to use a MacBook for heavy developer environments, video editing, design apps like Figma and so on. And if that's never going to be you, I would say that the base model is actually a perfect fit. And that said, you want to avoid buying any laptop unless you know exactly what your use case is. And what I mean by that is, are you going to be browsing the web? Are you going to be writing Word documents, watching YouTube, Netflix? Because if that's what you're doing, you're the exact candidate for a base model MacBook Air, for example. I don't think you'll ever need more than 8GB of unified memory or the 256GB of storage, so just go for it. If you do anything more than what I just mentioned, at a very minimum you might want to consider the 16GB of unified memory and potentially the storage upgrade to 512GB. I think this would keep you out of needing to drag around a ton of hard drives, and I've put my money where my mouth is here, and I've made those exact changes and upgrades to my M2 Mac Mini. Recently, I've also been considering going for the new M3 Air, but with more unified memory and more storage, basically like a Mac Mini on the go, or at least that's how I see it playing out. Because there are times I want to get work done no matter where I am, and I kind of miss that from my MacBook Pro, given that it now needs a new battery, and it's basically become a stationary PC that I rarely use. Let's get back to our reasons, and the second one is longevity. If you want your laptop to last a few years and still be usable, you need to avoid buying the base models. I know it was late 2017 when I was buying my MacBook Pro now, but it is quite unusable without having it plugged in. I'm aware this happens to all devices, by the way. The storage is full, and I've noticed the fans are struggling, and they're like kicking up when they never would have previously with more modern applications and even the most basic tasks. So really, for me, that's at end of life and I need to replace it. From what I've been seeing with the new Apple Silicon chips and hearing from friends of mine, I can see them lasting years longer than the previous Intel variants did, which is exactly what we want. As hard as it might be to resist buying the base model and having to spend a few hundred more on the upgrades I mentioned earlier, I truly think it'll be a game changer and you'll thank yourself once the new shiny feeling has worn off if you wait and actually add on those upgrades, because when you're sitting down and actually looking to get some work done, the extra memory and the fact you won't have to worry about what storage you have left will make that work so much easier. The way Apple's unified memory works is once we run out of unified memory, it starts to dip into your storage. So if you have 16GB of memory, unified memory, and then also 512GB of storage, you'll actually be able to use far more than 16 gigabytes of memory in a sense. On a more positive side, if you travel all the time and like getting work done on the go and want a fantastic travel laptop, I think the base model could actually be a great option. That's if you're only doing really light work and maybe the odd video edit or photo edit, or if you're always offloading to a main PC at home and this is just kind of your get out and get work done laptop, I think that's perfect. My main concern is if all you're going to do is video editing, designing, photo work, the base MacBook Air or Pro might not be the one for you. Take it from someone who's been there. That said, I hope I've given you something to think about when it comes to your next MacBook purchase. All we need now is for Apple to give us 16GB of unified memory as standard and a bit more storage, and I think we'll be happy. If you enjoyed this video and would like to check out my thoughts on my Mac 2 Mini and if it's still worth buying in 2024, check out this video. And if you'd like to see how I set up my iPhone so it doesn't ruin my life, check out this video here. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.